Welcome to my video on creating lines and restricting them using the Desmos Graphing Calculator. If you're in any of my classes, you end up having to use this quite a bit. So let's get started. The first thing to do is we're going to go to desmos.com. When on desmos.com, if we want to go directly to the calculator, we just click Start Graphing. But there are also many other things on the site available. There are tutorials. You can see here some links that you can click on that will help you learn how to use the calculator more effectively. Here there are staff picks of graphs that others have made. Typically these are more math related. And then below we have creative art. So be sure that if you're assigned to complete a project, you don't just click on one of these creative art projects and pass it off as your own. Then recently saved graphs. But anyway, we're going to get started with the calculator. So we open it up, and the first thing that you should do is you should sign in the upper right. And since in our school district everyone has a Three Rivers Google account, I'm going to want you to sign in using your Google account. So you just click this button. I don't want you to set up a separate Desmos account. And because I'm already signed into Chrome, I didn't have to type in my credentials. It just recognized me. You can see it right here. Another benefit of signing in is that if I needed to, once my graph is completed, I can share the graph. I can click up here, Share Graph, and click on Email, and then I can send it to any email. Here's the Help feature. So it'll give you tours. There's videos on getting started, a user guide, keyboard shortcuts, all sorts of things up there that are available. This is for changing the language. Likely that won't be necessary for you, but if it is, it could be helpful. It even has Bulgarian, which is my language of choice. Here in the upper right are the graph settings. I can do things like change to projector mode, which just makes everything larger, more bold, so it can be better displayed on a projector. We can take away the numbers on the axis. We can take away the in-between grid lines, called the minor grid lines. We can add arrows to the axes. We can change the grid to something called polar coordinates, which you wouldn't see till pre-calculus. You can remove the axes, the X or Y axis. You can also change the scale, so how far out on each axis it goes. This goes out to +10 on the X and to -10, and the same on the Y, not quite that far. You can add a label to the axes, which would be nice in an applied problem, or in the case of maybe we're using this for a science project or something like that. We can change our calculator settings to radians or degrees. In radians, we're measuring in terms of pi. Anyway, so there's those things. Here's the zoom feature. But let's get started. The goal of this video today is to show you how to create a line. I'm going to focus on three types of lines: vertical, horizontal, and then a slanted line, or a line that doesn't have a slope of 0. So right over here on the left, this is where we're going to enter either points or equations. I'm going to start out by putting a couple points. I'm going to put the point -5, 4. You can see it shows up there. And I'll put a second point. We'll put the point 3, 2. Now my goal is to get a line.
Carly Brock, please come to the front office. Carly Brock.
Sorry about the noise there. So my goal is to get a line that passes through these 2 points. You might recall that this right here, y equals mx plus b, this is the standard, or this is the equation of a line in slope-intercept form, which is what we want to use. So what I need to know are 2 things. I need to know the slope and the y-intercept. Starting out, to find my slope, I'm just going to start at the point on the left, and I'm going to figure out if I'm going from left to right, how many units down do I move, and then how many units over. From this point here, I'd need to move down 2 and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, down 2 over 8. So I'm going to put here negative 2 over 8. And to get that fraction bar there, I'm just using the division key. Fractions and division, it's really the same thing. But you'll notice 2/8, right? That's a reducible fraction. That's the same as 1/4. I could leave it as 2/8, or I can put it as 1/4, or I could even put negative 0.25. I could put it in decimal form, and it doesn't matter.
Cody Booth, Logan Wilder.
All right, please excuse the announcements coming over the intercom. Anyway, back to it. So now I've got my slope, and I'll put the x in. So now y equals mx, my slope negative 1/4, and you can see that this line has the appropriate slope to pass through those points, but the intercept isn't correct yet. So I can kind of trace along with my mouse here and see about where do I think it would cross the y-axis. Well, there's 1, there's 2, so somewhere between 2 and 3. If I put plus 2, it moves it up. If I put plus 3, that's too high. I could start out 2.5. That's not it. 2.75 maybe, 2 3/4. And that is the appropriate y-intercept. So now I've got a line that passes through the points. But the problem with this line is if I'm trying to draw a segment or have it stop at those points, then I need to do something else. And this is called restricting the domain. So it's kind of like building walls. Essentially, I'm going to try and put a wall here at negative 5 and put a wall here at positive 3.
Isaiah.
All right, so to restrict this line, we're going to start with curly brackets here. And you can see that when I put in the curly bracket, I'm using the keyboard to do so, but you could also come down here to get, you can see here are the numerals and some variables and different functions of the calculator. You click the ABC button and you're going to get more options here. You'll get the curly brackets right down here on the bottom. So once I put those in, my left wall is going to be at negative 5. So I'll put the negative 5, and notice that was the x coordinate of the left dot, the red dot. I'll put in an inequality here and then put x. The domain deals with the x inputs, or the x values of this function or graph. So what I've got right here, I'm saying that x is greater than or equal to negative 5. So it only gives me values of x to the right of negative 5. See, all of these x values are greater than negative 5. Then I'm going to put another inequality because I want x values that are greater than negative 5 but less than 3. And when I put in the 3, now I've got my line restricted. So that's for a slanted line. We need a slope and we need our y-intercept. And we can use that slope-intercept equation of a line to create what we need. Now what we want to do is put in a vertical line and a horizontal line. So what I'll do is I'll just make this into a triangle really quick. I want a vertical line that passes through this point. Actually, what I'll do is I'll add one additional point here. I'll go ahead and put a point at negative 5, 2. Orange point there. By the way, you can change the color of points and things by clicking right here on this gear where it says Edit List. Click that gear, click over here, and you can change the color. We'll change the color of that orange one, make it a better color there. All right, so now I want to connect and form a triangle. To get this vertical line here, notice that the x value
Elijah Myers, you want in the front office?
All right, I keep getting interrupted by announcements over the intercom, but anyway, back to it. So I'm going to get a vertical line right here. Notice that I would describe that line. It's on the x-axis at negative 5. So I'm just going to put x equals negative 5. That gives me a vertical line. but I want to cut it off between these 2 points. Notice that the x values are the same. So this time I'm not restricting the domain, but the range, which deals with the y-axis, and that's the up and down. My lowest y value is 2, and my highest y value is 4. So I want to go between 2, and notice I'm using a y this time in between, and 4.
Mr. Miser, you have phone call line 1.
There's the vertical line. Now the horizontal line, we're going to put in y equals 2, because that's the y value that describes this line. Put in our curly brackets, and I want it to go between -5, that's my lower x value, and +3. So now I've formed this triangle. I think that's about it. One of the things you want to keep in mind is if you're going to continue working on a graph, you would need to save it. So up here in the upper left, we can click Untitled Graph, and we could give this graph a title and save it. It's not like Google Docs where it's constantly saving your work. And it's also not a collaborative file, so when you share it with someone, they can work on what you've shared with them, but it won't do live updates, and so your graph wouldn't be changed once you've shared it. Also, there's a menu on the left here. If you click the 3 horizontal bars, you can see in here, these are all the different kinds of graphs that I've saved, and it goes down quite a ways. But below those, there are some preloaded graphs that you can click on as well. To help you out, so let's say you wanted to create a circle and you're not sure how that would work. You could click Conic Sections, Circle. You can open that graph. Now notice my other graph is gone, which would have been a problem if I had needed to save it. But now I've got the standard equation of a circle, and I can change the radius. I can move it left and right, do other things. So I think that's about it for this video. Hopefully it helps you, and we'll see you in class.